Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. And she searched for the killer for 30 to 40 years. The guy was wearing a mask. Those kinds of people are hard to find. Is it really that hard to find a man wearing a mask of human skin? I kind of think Leatherface would stand out in a crowd, you know. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Erschen. This week we're doing another movie review. This is Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2022, directed by David Blue Garcia, starring Owen Fury, Sarah Yarkin and Elsie Fisher, and Mark Burnham in the role of Leatherface, the iconic villain in movie history. So yes, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Actually, it's just Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's not the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're kind of a play on what they were doing with Halloween 2018, you know, just calling it Halloween. And this movie has a lot of similarities to, like, Halloween from 2018 and Halloween Kills in a way, too. Where you got Sally Hardesty back from the original film, 1974. And she's very similar to, like, Laurie Strode in Halloween 2018. She's like this grizzled old badass, and she's a Texas Ranger now. Yeah. And even though it's not Marilyn Burns, I could definitely buy that Owen Fury is Sally Hardesty, the old grizzled veteran, you know. I had no problem, no issue with her performance. She definitely looks the part and feels the part. I liked her, you know. Of course, I wish it was Marilyn Burns, but unfortunately she passed away a few years ago, you know, and that kind of sucks. It would have been great to have the original Sally Hardesty back, you know, but the character is there, you know, and well represented. As is Leatherface, for sure. I love the way they handled Leatherface as a character. Perfectly done. Mark Burnham does a great job. If I was to rank the Leatherface actors, he would definitely be up towards the top in the rankings. He plays the part perfectly. Big, burly guy, you know. He's got all the mannerisms down, a classic Leatherface, you know. And he has a pretty sick look about him, you know. So I love the fact that they got John Larroquette back to do the narration at the beginning. Love that, you know. That gives it some serious, you know, credibility. You know? Very cool. So the thing with this movie is it's got a lot of highs and lows, and it's very mixed bag for me. And as it is for a lot of fans, it seems to be polarizing for a lot of people, you know. As was the case recently with Halloween Kills, and there's a lot of similarities, like I said, between the two. And they handled the character of Leatherface great. They got that right, and, you know, Sally Hardesty's character, they did a great job of that. They got that right. But there's a lot of things that really, you know, deter from it, you know, that take you out of the movie, and, you know, they're like, damn, that's stupid, why'd they do that? You know, a lot of bad decisions, and, like, just plain stupidity, you know, as was the case with some of Halloween Kills, you know. At any rate, the film begins, we meet these young teenagers, these young entrepreneurs. We meet the characters of Melody and Leela, who are sisters, and they're making this kind of big business deal in the abandoned Texas town of Harlow. Now, let me just point out that this film was not filmed in Texas. It was filmed in Bulgaria, which I think is kind of weird. Like, why didn't they just film it in Texas, you know? Like, why you gotta go all the way to Bulgaria? And it just looks like any kind of typical town. Like, you could have shot that anywhere, really, you know? But Anyway, the director does a great job. I have no issue with the direction of this film. I think it looks great. You know, it looks very modern, and the actors do a fine job. There's no bad, cheesy performances or anything that stand out to me. I think they all do a pretty solid job. You know, it's a good young cast. You know, and Melody and Leela are likable characters. I guess their plan is to take this abandoned town of Harlow, which is basically a ghost town in Texas, and, you know, nobody's there. And their plan is to kind of auction off some of the buildings and kind of create, like, this new, hip, trendy town, you know, very modern. But it doesn't quite work out, of course. This is a horror movie, after all. But they come to find that in the local orphanage in town, there's an old woman still living there, you know, inside. You know, this kind of broken down old woman. She's ill. She's lives on off of an oxygen tank, you know. And she has a very interesting guest living with her, Leatherface himself. I'm guessing that she took him in as an orphan, you know, and she's become like a mother figure to him, I guess, because you could tell he's really close with her, you know. And they show Leatherface kind of in the shadows at first. They do give you a couple shots of his face there, but it's kind of dark, you know. He just appears to have a normal face, you know. He doesn't you could tell he's not disfigured or anything, you know. But yeah, I could buy that this is the original Leatherface, you know. He's got the right look. But yeah, the old woman whose name is Ginny says, you know, what are you doing? I still own this place, you know. I have the deed. And you know, Melody and Leela and her friends say, no, you lost the deed, you know, the bank repossessed the house, the orphanage. You are not supposed to be here. And she totally is defiant. No, that business with the bank was all settled. I paid everything. You know, this is my place. So we kind of wonder as the audience, you know, is that true? You know, does she really own the place? Does she have the deed? And the people are like, you know, show me the deed, you know. It's like, I don't have to show you nothing. This is my place, you know. And what happens is she ends up, like, getting, like, a heart attack or something. And they have to take her to the hospital and rush her to the hospital. And Leatherface comes down, you know, and picks her up and puts her in the ambulance. And on the way there, she passes away, you know. And, oh, you just awoke the beast. The sleeping giant in Leatherface. And you could tell he's really upset when Ginny dies in his arms, you know, and then the cop goes to reach out to him. He grabs the guy's arm and ends in half. His bone is sticking out and he jabs his bones right in his neck. And then you get where this movie is going, you know. How brutal it's going to be, and this movie is absolutely brutal. Definitely does not skimp on the gore, and it's got some great gore effects for sure, you know. You could tell a lot of the budget of the film went into the gore effects for sure, because as far as the locations go, there's not a whole lot of different sets, you know. Most of it takes place in the town, in the ghost town, you know. And there's a couple scenes in the desert here and there, but it's pretty confined film, you know. You could tell a lot of the budget went to, you know, the gore effects. And this movie's bloody as hell, you know. But obviously there's the motivation for Leatherface, and it becomes a straight-up slasher movie with Leatherface as, you know, the slasher killer, you know. That's kind of the difference between this movie and most of the other sequels and the original, is that there was always a family there. You know, you had the weird characters that were supposed to be his brothers or his cousins or whatever, you know. You had Drayton Sawyer, who was his uncle. You had Chop Top and all these wild characters. The Hitchhiker, you know. None of that here. This is just Leatherface killing machine, you know. It's just like Halloween Kills, and in 2018 you have Leatherface the Killing Machine, and he's just absolutely vicious in this movie. I think it's funny, the part when he goes back to the house and he has to open the wall to get the chainsaw, you know, the famous chainsaw that he wields throughout the entire franchise. It's almost like the sacred chainsaw. It's so important. You have to hide it inside the wall and break the wall. You got to make it dramatic, you know. But once he kills off everybody in the ambulance or the van or whatever it was, he cuts off Ginny's face, the old woman's face, and puts it on, you know. And there you have the classic Leatherface mask. I thought it was interesting how, you know, he killed his own mother. I guess kind of figures the symbolism, you know, this is my motivation. You killed my mother, basically, so now I'm gonna wreak havoc and kill all you bastards. And I kind of liked that. I thought that was something different. That was interesting, you know. I also thought it was kind of funny when he puts on the mask, it just sticks on his face. Like, there's no string holding it or anything. Like, how does it stay on there the whole movie? And there are some gapes in logic in this movie. It's like, what happened between the original film and here? When you try to analyze it, it doesn't quite add up. You're like, what happened to Drayton Sawyer? What happened to, you know, how did he end up in an orphanage in this random ghost town? And, you know, they don't explain anything, you know. They just kind of throw it at you. This is the way it is, you know. And it doesn't show anything of why, you know, Sally is still in the same area. You know, why didn't she just flee to another state or country or something? You know, why'd she stay there, you know, to become the Texas Ranger, the badass? But, at any rate, I will say things don't quite work out for Sally the way they do in some of the Halloween movies, you know. And I thought that was kind of an interesting twist, the way they handle Sally's character once she does come back to the town and take on Leatherface, the monster that she survived the massacre all the way back in 1974, you know. And she's, you know, she says a line, you know, I've waited for 50 years to get this bastard, you know. You're like, yeah, get him. You know? There is one scene that a lot of people are going to talk about, I imagine. I haven't watched anyone else's reviews, by the way. I'm just kind of going off the cuff on this one. But I can imagine a lot of people are going to talk about the scene on the bus, you know. Where there's this group of teenagers gathered in the bus, I guess, who have come to visit this town, you know. Because, you know, Melody and Leela have big plans for this town. So she gathered some people together and they have kind of a conference. And, you know, she's going to show them all around and talk about all their plans with the town and everything. And once Leatherface goes on his killing spree, he comes onto the bus with his chainsaw in hand, and all the other people on the bus, they're like all teenagers. They just stare at him, and they put their phones on, on like TikTok or whatever. I think it's TikTok, and they film Leatherface. You know, like, you try anything, you're canceled, bro. So yeah, big knock on cancel culture there. I thought it was kind of funny, but at the same time it was a little kind of stupid. It was a bit much. And another thing that bothers me about that scene is Leatherface takes out everyone on that bus easily. I mean, come on, you're not gonna like throw something at him, you're not gonna try and tackle him or something. Like, he just fillets them, you know. It's absolutely brutal. One girl tries to crawl out of the bus, he saws her in half, one part of her body falls to the ground, the other part falls inside the bus. Let me tell you, it is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's for sure. One scene, he grabs one of the kids and saws him in the gut and like lifts them up into the ceiling, you know. Reminiscent of that scene in Halloween Kills, right? He does that a couple times in the movie. But like I said, the gore effects are on par. It's awesome, but that scene just bothers me. Like how nobody tried to do anything. You know, you're not gonna do anything to fight this guy. You know, come on. It's just ridiculous. But I will say this film is definitely a lot more serious than the other sequels in the franchise. You know, this took the material very seriously. This is not like a comic. There's no humor in here at all. Just that one scene was kind of like the only time where they kind of put a little meta humor in there, you know. It's not like Texas Chainsaw 2 or anything with wild and crazy ridiculousness stuff. But there are some stupid choices that some of the characters make that just kind of take you out of the movie, you know, like, come on, you know? And when Melody and Lita finally catch up to Leatherface and they have the big showdown, it's a little bit disappointing. It's very quick and easy, and you're like, what? I mean, what? This is Leatherface, the guy who's survived, what, 20 movies now? I don't even know how many movies there are in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, but there's a lot. Like, really, you're gonna go out like that? Come on now. But, yeah, the ending is something else, you know. I'm not gonna give it away. I'm not gonna spoil it. You do have to stay for the ending. It's very interesting, and it's something that will have people talking like, whoa, you know, like, damn. I enjoyed that part of it, and I enjoyed a lot of things about this movie, but like I said, the gapes in logic and the plot holes are abound, you know. and a lot of the choices that the characters make are just ridiculous. And I thought the whole, you know, the whole spoof on cancel culture and the whole woke society that we live in today was kind of like, you know, I didn't like it, you know. I thought it was kind of goofy. I thought it was just silly, but who knows, you know. I'm sure a lot of people would think differently. Probably thought it was funny, or, you know. I just thought it was too, like, nah. You know. And yeah, there's just a lot of scenes that are just ridiculous, you know. Like, why did they do that, you know? But the positives, I will say, is the direction by David Blue Garcia is very good. The film looks great. Looks very modern and sleek. But at the same time, it's got a little bit of that raw grittiness that we saw in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. So there's a lot of things I like and a lot of things I don't. It's a very mixed bag, and I'm sure a lot of people might agree with that. So yeah, it's kind of frustrating. I wanted this to be good, you know. Like I said, I feel like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre deserves better. It deserves a really solid film, and we haven't gotten that in a long time, and this film is no different, really. I like it a lot better than the last couple ones, but it's still not perfect. It's far, far from perfect. Is it a good movie overall? No, I'm sorry. It's just somewhere in the middle, you know. It's like almost like Halloween 2007, the remake. A lot I like, a lot I don't like. In the end, it does not make a good movie. When you put all the pieces together as one film, it just does not work overall. I will say, if you look at it as a straight-up slasher film, which this is very much a slasher movie. This is not like the original film. This is, like I said, Leatherface killing machine. That's this movie. It's just Leatherface taking out people one by one with the chainsaw, or however, with the hammer, you know, in various creative ways. It's just a straight-up slasher movie. So if you look at it from that aspect, it's not too bad. It almost works as a slasher film, but it doesn't really work so much as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. So that's my overall thoughts on the film. Thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared. Folks, don't forget to grab your Sean Patrick Erschen gear and represent the Horror Corner. Also, check out these awesome mugs we have, perfect for your coffee. And definitely check out the Horror Hangout live stream t-shirt and represent the legacy of the Horror Hangout. Check out the link in the description below this video.